What's up, everybody? This is John with John Fair Innovations, bringing you more League of Legends Worlds 2021 content. We had an amazing play-ins. We saw, of course, Detonation FocusMe make history and be the first ever Japanese team to make it through to the group stage. We, of course, saw Gen.G be very dominant. We also saw Hanwha Life be very dominant. And we saw C9, struggle a little bit, but in the end, were able to, clean it up towards the end of the play-in stage and make it through to the next stage. Of course, now we go to, the big part of the tournament, which is, of course, the group stage. So we have 4 groups. This is not in order of what the games will be played. I thought it was easier for myself and for everyone else to be able to follow along if I just simply had it as their groups. Damwon Gaming versus FPX is the first game of the day, and then I think we have both the Group C matches, and then it sort of mixes and matches as the night goes on. Firstly, of course, we're going to have to talk about Damwon versus FPX, probably the most hypiest game of the night. Certainly 2 tournament favorites going against each other in the group stage. The very first game is absolutely amazing. I'm sure it's going to be a banger. My thoughts on this one is that Ziggs is going to be really huge this meta. It just seems like the ability to be able to AFK farm on the champion and allow your support to roam, which seems to be a very broken role at this stage. So a champion like Ziggs that can just AFK farm, that can ult from a very long range, is going to be really important. FPX have shown that they ban it a lot and that they don't like to play it themselves. However, Damwon show that they absolutely will put Ghost on Ziggs if it's ever up. So I think if this champion is up, and also with the strength of Ziggs itself, I think gives Damwon a bit of an advantage over FPX because of that, because of the Ziggs meta that I think we're in at the moment. Top lane I think is very volatile. I think Jace is going to be highly contested in draft because both these top laners, Khan and Nuguri, of course, amazing Jace players. And both teams do look for both those top laners to be able to solo get advantages, and a champion like Jace is perfect for that. The biggest mismatch I see in this game, though, is in the jungle. As talented and as much pedigree as Tian has, Canyon is the best jungler in the world and continues to be the best jungler in the world, and also Damwon plays for that jungle, so I can expect there to be probably the biggest mismatch I see, and I think FPX is going to have to really make sure they look after Tian in order to make sure he doesn't get blown up by Canyon, which we've seen him do so many times to so many great players. Of course, if we're going to talk about this match, we have to get hyped for the mid lane. If you do not get hyped for this mid lane, I don't know why you're watching Worlds. You got Showmaker versus Doinby, the best player in the world, taking on the second best player in the world. Some people have Showmaker ahead of Doinby, some people have Doinby ahead of Showmaker. Honestly, though, these 2 players are absolutely insane, and I expect a really volatile and a really spicy mid lane, and I expect jungle to jungle and support. I expect a lot of roams mid lane, because this game I think could be won and lost there, given how pivotal both those players are to their teams. I do see this going Damwon's way. I think in a best of 1, FPX have shown in the past at previous Worlds that they're not exactly a very good best of 1 team, and they've also been very shaky. Whilst Damwon was shaky early on this year, but have seemed to really shore that up and have been playing a lot cleaner. So I do expect Damwon, especially if they get hands on Ziggs, I think this is a must-ban pick against them. Next up, of course, we have the other 2 teams from Group A, which is, of course, Rogue and C9. Before the tournament, I had C9 winning this over Rogue. I've actually sort of flip-flopped. I'm not confident in C9 after what I saw from them in play-ins. They were very shaky. The fact that they got beaten so comfortably by Detonation FocusMe worries me, because I think Perks versus Larson I think is a very similar matchup and similar power levels to Perks versus Aria, and we saw Aria absolutely dominate in that match. So that's a big concern for me with C9. And also the fact that their bot lane was getting absolutely gapped by DFM and Unicorns of Love. And even you could argue at the very first game of the Peace series, Violet and Aladoric were gapping C9's bot lane. And Rogue's strength is their bot lane. Hansama and Trimby are absolutely by far the strongest point that Rogue has, and Rogue are a really great best of one team. So I do expect them to pick a lane bully like a Draven, if they can get their hands on a Lucian, for example, even a champion like MF, and I really expect Sven to struggle in. And Inspired, to me, is the best jungler that the LEC has, and again, I think that's going to be way too much for Blabber, especially from what we've seen of C9 so far. Next up, we have T1 versus Detonation FocusMe. Aria talked about in an interview with Ashley Kang, make sure you check that out, about, like, you know, facing Faker and what it means to him. And so, you know, it's such a great moment for him and Steel and the rest of the Detonation FocusMe team to play against an organization as storied as T1 in a group stage. So really great for them. However, I expect T1 to win this, and I expect them to win it very comfortably. I think the lights are going to be too bright for Detonation FocusMe. Faker is Faker. You know, we know how great he is, especially I expect him and Aria have a very similar champion pool, actually. A lot of Zoe, a lot of LeBlanc, you know, a lot of Akali. So in that sort of meta, I expect Faker to be able to play better than Aria. I don't expect Aria to be able to gap Faker like how he gapped Perks. Faker is a whole different beast and playing at a much higher level than what we've seen out of Perks. So I think it's going to be a bit too much for Aria there. And Aria is obviously the strongest point of Detonation FocusMe, so that takes away a lot of the Detonation FocusMe strength. And as great as Evi has been, and Yutapon has been for Detonation FocusMe, they're going to be going up against Kana, Gumayushi, or Teddy, depending on which one T1 want to play first, and that's going to be absolutely really difficult. These are some of the best players at those positions in the world, and so asking Detonation FocusMe to be able to overcome that is a really tough ask. And also support, as I said before, Broken Roll and T1 have the best support in the world in Carrier, so really expect them to be able to you know, control the map and dominate. Next up, we have EDG versus 100 Thieves. I'm not even going to bother wait, like, you know, giving suspense as who I think go win. EDG is going to win this. I think this is going to be, even though I've talked about, you know, Cloud9 versus Rogue, T1 versus Detonation FocusMe, I think this is going to be the biggest stomp of the day. That's my prediction. 100 Thieves, not saying they're necessarily a bad team, but EDG to me look like potentially the best team at the tournament. I think EDG played the cleanest style outside of perhaps Damwon. I think FPX, you could say, are maybe mechanically stronger and play with a lot more flamboyance, and it's a lot more entertaining. But I think EDG play a very clean game of League of Legends, and Viper is the best ADC in the world. And, you know, you've got Scout as well. Flandre is the best weak side top laner in the world. And yeah, this is just such huge power levels difference between EDG and 100 Thieves. And 100 Thieves, I just don't see where they get an advantage against EDG. Unless EDG, you know, they do something silly early game and kind of throw, and then that's how they win the best, like how 100 Thieves wins. I don't see any position where I can expect 100 Thieves to be able to get any sort of advantages against a team like EDG. So I really expect it to be a really huge stomp for EDG. Next up, we have RNG versus PSG. Of course, a rematch of the semi-finals of MSI, which is pretty hypey. Of course, PSG, the #1 seed of PCS, and RNG returning as the 3rd seed of the LPL to show how strong the LPL is as a region. This is going to be a really good game. I think strong point for PSG is obviously Maple in the mid lane. I do expect, though, a strong counter to that is going to be, of course, top lane with Xiaohu over Hanabi. But yeah, like, I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it'll probably go the distance. However, I do see RNG just being a little bit more cleaner. I expect Gala to be able to, Gala, I think, to me, is one of the best ADCs on the planet, and I expect them to be able to, get his hands on maybe a Kai'Sa, maybe an Aphelios, and can really pop off in this game. I expect that to be the biggest mismatch of this game, and I can see RNG ending up, being a bit of a back and forth at the beginning, but eventually being able to, win a crucial team fight and then snowball the game outside of that. Next up from the group, we have Hanwha Life versus Fnatic. And I think Fnatic would be favoured to win this. Fnatic, of course, the second seed of the LEC, whilst Hanwha Life are the fourth seed of the LCK and ran the gauntlet to get here and had to play through play-ins. Chovy, you can never count out Hanwha Life because they have Chovy. And Chovy, to me, it's a big mismatch in the mid lane against Niski. However, I do think, though, top lane, I think, is going to be very volatile. I actually don't think there's, I know a lot of people meme about Morgan and people say, oh, Morgan's not that good. As I've said in a previous video, I think people are a bit harsh on Morgan because, he played in the LPL, he plays in the LCK, so he's getting compared to, Xiaohu, Ale, Bin, Nuguri, Khan, Keen, Rascal, these are really quality players. These are all top 10 top laners in the world. And, of course, playing against these players consistently and getting beaten by these players, you're going to have a negative representation on this player. But I don't think that necessarily makes him bad, because I think if he was in a different region, obviously language barriers are, notwithstanding, I think he would actually be a really strong top laner, and we would probably have a different view of Morgan. But as it stands, he obviously plays in LPL and LCK, which are the two strongest top lane regions we have in the world. Adam, on the other hand, I think is really coin flippy. I know people really like Adam. Adam, he's fun, he's funny, he makes a lot of memes, a lot of jokes. People find that really funny. He has the interesting Darius picks, for example. However, I just see a lot of mistakes in lane, which I kind of expect Morgan to be able to punish. Overall, though, I can see, Whippo being able to influence the jungle, and Upset being able to get fed off Vista. I think that's the biggest disadvantage Hanwha Life have is Hylissang versus Vista. I think Hylissang is an insanely awesome support, and Upset, I think, is an outstanding bot laner. Of course, Deft is an outstanding bot laner as well, but I think that's going to be a huge point of pressure against Hanwha Life, something that they haven't had to deal with this tournament, and I expect that to be probably a little bit too much for them in this game, so I'm be going Fnatic in a very close one. Next up, we have Gen.G versus LNG. LNG playing against their second LCK team of the tournament. They, of course, beat Hanwha Life, but that was a very back and forward one. Gen.G are a very well-structured team. They have great players in every position. You look at their roster and you wonder why they haven't won anything. You look at Rascal, Clid, BDD, Ruler, and Life. That is a really, really strong team. That is quality at every position, and that's why they always do really good in regular season. They're a very good team with a lot of quality players, so they're going to win a lot more games than they lose. LNG, I still saw the same issues that I had problems with before the tournament. They were really clean and they were really good, and they were definitely the best team we saw in play-ins. However, it was still very much Ale and Tarzan having to really hard carry the rest of this team. And, I wonder how much of a lead he's going to get. Tarzan's going to be able to get over Clid, and I wonder how much of a lead Ale will be able to get on a player like Rascal, who is also amazing in his own right. And I don't think while I think Ale is better than Rascal, I don't think it's that significantly different that he is going to be getting a huge lead. And of course, Ruler, on the other hand, I think is immensely better than Light. And obviously, BDD, I think, is a lot stronger than Icon. So I can see this going in Gen.G's favor. Again, I think it's going to go a bit of a distance, but I expect a team fight to go Gen.G's way late, and then they'll be able to snowball off that, which kind of what happened a little bit in the Hanwha Life game, except it was kind of the other way around. LNG won that crucial team fight and was able to snowball off that one. Lastly, we have, of course, Team Liquid versus Mad, EU versus NA for the second time of the night. We, of course, have Mad Lions, the first seed of the LEC, and the real hope for LEC for a team to do well this tournament. They have some really great players. Humanoid has been the best mid laner in the West by far. Armut has been the best top laner the West has had by far. And yeah, we really strong play by all of them. Mad Lions, though, have a problem with losing early games, which of course becomes a massive issue for them early on. Obviously, though, they are able to come back from that with some great decision making, with great macro and objective control, which of course then allows them to be able to have that team fight and win. Against some of these other teams, I worry about that sort of style. However, Team Liquid to me is not a team that can punish that. Core JJ is really good. Obviously, we know how good Alfari is. However, I think the two teams match up very similarly in style. But to me, Mad Lions, I don't think they'll get as pressured early game as maybe against a Gen.G or an LNG. And so I expect them to be able to overcome any issues they might have in the early game and win this one fairly comfortably, I think. I don't think it's going to be that difficult for Mad to win this game. So there's my predictions. That would, of course, leave our groups looking like this. Damwon Gaming would be at top of the group at 1-0. We would also have Rogue, also 1-0. Very similar to last year with the group that Rogue and Damwon were in with Gen.G. That would put, of course, FPX at 0-1, along with C9 at 0-1. In Group B, we would have EDG as 1-0. We would have T1 at 1-0. Very expected, I think, in that sense. Detonation FocusMe, of course, would be 0-1. And then we would also have 100 Thieves being 0-1 as well. Group C, RNG would top the group at 1-0. Then we would also have Fnatic at 1-0. That would, of course, put PSG at 0-1. And that would also put Hanwha Life at 0-1. Group D, we would have Gen.G being 1-0, along with Mad being 1-0. Then we would have LNG being 0-1, and of course we would have Team Liquid at 0-1. So that's my predictions. Let me know what you think. Are you excited about tonight? I think it's going to be an absolutely great day. I cannot wait. Let me know who you think. Who are you supporting? Let me know in the comments below. But always stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you next time.